All right, ladies and gentlemen, happy July. And now that it is the month of July, it is time to turn our attention towards the core principles of fantasy football, and that is going to be redraft for the 2023 season. Yes, we'll still have a few videos floating out surrounding off-season content, a little bit of dynasty content here and there as the month finishes up, but we are now moving towards redraft season, having a lot more of the fantasy community, welcoming them back in for the 2023 fantasy football season, and what better way to kick off fantasy football for redraft than with a mock draft. So today we're going to accumulate all the knowledge that we've been dissecting over the course of the offseason, through draft season, through offseason trades, through hype pieces and OTAs and mini camps. And we're going to put it all together for our first ever mock draft of the 2023 football season. So as always, like the video, comment down below what you think of this draft. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, because we'll have a great 2023 fantasy football season, and I'll see you on the other side of that intro. Welcome back into Twin Takes Fantasy Football, everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful 4th of July. Thank you, as we took a little bit of a break here on Tuesday. That's when we would normally put out a video, but since we're an American-based channel, fantasy football is an American-based sport, we would assume that most people probably had better things to do with their day than watch fantasy football content. So, took off while you guys are celebrating. We also celebrated, and we are back with this Thursday, and we'll continue to do 2 videos a week for the rest of July. And we're going to start diving into more redraft content. And like I said in the intro, we're going to kick it off with a mock draft here. Today, it's going to be a really quick, really simple one. Me drafting against the bots of Sleeper. I think Sleeper's bots do a really good job kind of taking together all the data that the current market is putting into it. It's constantly evaluating mock drafts that people are doing on the platform and currently adjusting ADPs. So I feel like the bots are actually pretty correct to what the general consensus market opinion on these players are. Obviously, we've talked quite a bit this offseason, which players I'm rising on, which players I want to buy low on, which players I'm just avoiding. And obviously, we'll take that from the dynasty context that we were talking about previously and now transition it over to a redraft. And you can see how that's all going to play out in this draft right here. This is a pretty standard draft. It's going to be half-point PPR. Making it a little bit more spicy, adding a flex position, meaning we're going to have more skill position players that we have to be mindful of when we're drafting, that we're going to be starting each and every week rather than just 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, and 1 flex. This is a 1 quarterback league, which I think is more prevalent in redraft leagues. I think Superflex is more prevalent to Dynasty. And as for my starting draft position, I'm going to pick my own starting draft position. I know the consensus around the fantasy community as of early July is that there's a top 2 or 3 running backs in Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler and maybe Jonathan Taylor thrown in there. It's 2 or 3 depending on what your flavor is and who you're talking to. And obviously, with wide receivers as well, we see people talking about, definitely Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are top 2. You may be throwing a Cooper Kupp as well. But I want to put myself outside of that, really consensus top overall picks and see how you build a team and build a roster without having that really true star player to build your entire season around. So with that being said, I will claim position number 10 towards the end of the draft. Maybe I got a little bit unlucky in my randomly drawn draft, and I'll show you kind of what my thought process is and why I pick the players that I do as we go on. So without further ado, let's start the draft. Yes, I do want to start the draft. Jamar Chase goes off first. That's a hot take. I think I would be personally picking Justin Jefferson to go first. Cooper Kupp over Travis Kelce. I do like that a lot. Stephon Diggs. That's unfortunate. I was really hoping that he fell to me, but that's okay. As far as the rest of the wide receiver goes, I really want to start off this draft really wide receiver heavy. I think if you're looking at the top 2 rounds, we're looking at these top end wide receivers. I think there's a major drop off between the top 2 round wide receivers and then round 4 and 5 wide receivers when it comes to the running backs. Obviously, there's still Bijan Robinson here. I think in some more home leagues, he will be taken around the 7, 8, or 9. I don't think he falls all the way to 10. Just with the absolute pressure and hype surrounding Bijan, there's no way he falls this far. But I'm actively avoiding running backs that I like. I like Bijan Robinson. I really like Nick Chubb, but because of the depth at running back, I really, really prefer to start out my drafts, whether I'm drafting up here, whether I'm drafting down here, I really prefer to start out wide receiver heavy and get that top tier talent of wide receivers. So without further ado, I'm going to tell you my rankings for the wide receivers that remain on the board. It's going to be CeeDee Lamb, followed by A.J. Brown, followed by Devontae Adams, and then we'll kind of see what happens after that. But I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb here. to start. Sometimes if you get really lucky, you can have Stephon Diggs or Tyreek Hill fall to you, which I think would have been really optimal. I'm not, completely out on Stephon Diggs. I know there's a lot of been that, he didn't show up to OTAs on the first day. There's a little bit of drama surrounding that. Come on, guys. They really didn't do much. We saw last year that Gabe Davis is no threat to Stephon Diggs targets. His connection with Josh Allen is absolutely top tier. They brought in Dalton Kincaid. I don't think that's a huge threat to Stephon Diggs' production. He's going to be a top-end wide receiver this year. I wouldn't get too worried about it. And right now, it's pretty easy to me. I know Devonta Adams is on the older side of things, with the uncertainty around Jimmy Garoppolo coming into the Las Vegas Raiders. Maybe some people like Garrett Wilson more, people like Amon-Ra St. Brown more, but I think as far as someone who's going to deliver high-end production week in and week out and someone who's been there and done that, I'm a huge Jalen Waddle fan. I just, there's a lot of inconsistency around Tua's health, around all the weapons that they have down there in Miami. So before I get this auto pick, I'm going to select Devontae Adams. I'm going to start out wide receiver, and I'm very, very happy with the start of this draft. Maybe I've gotten some mock drafts where I start out Stephon Diggs followed by CeeDee Lamb, and that's like ideal, but probably not going to happen all the time. And I'm really hoping that DK Metcalf will fall to me, and he does not fall to me. That is absolutely devastating. I am very, very, very high on DK Metcalf this offseason, so I'm going to have to pivot, but I do want to talk about DK Metcalf real quick. The way I have him statted out, I think he's going to be a top 7 wide receiver for fantasy. I think this past season was an outlier season, and even with these tiny or the smaller than average touchdown numbers, he was still 16th wide receiver overall in PPR. And also, despite only catching six touchdowns, he was second amongst wide receivers in targets in the end zone. So I think he regresses back towards the mean a little bit. I think he gets back into that double-digit touchdowns. I think Tyler Lockett maybe takes a step back. DK Metcalf, honestly, if someone took Devontae Adams right here, it might have been a case for me to take DK Metcalf in the second round. That is how high I am on him. But now we have to pivot here. And going through here, this is why we start out wide receiver, because I think after DK Metcalf, there is a tremendous drop-off. If you look at Debo, Amari, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen. So this is where I'm very, very happy going with a running back that I really like in Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's going to... We've talked endlessly on this channel about the offense that Ben Johnson has constructed over there in Detroit, what a kind of an offensive guru he is when it comes to running the Detroit Lions offense. And I think with Jameson Williams out for 6 games, with DJ Chark moving on and signing with the Carolina Panthers, I think there'll be a lot of opportunity for Jahmyr Gibbs, even if he doesn't get the true workhorse running back role as David Montgomery. I think we'll get a lot of that touches out of the backfield. He'll be utilized quite a bit in the receiving game, and I think he's going to be an absolute cheat code for fantasy. Right here, I want to stack another running back, Miles Sanders. I'm targeting him here in the 4th round. I think it's an absolute slam dunk. I've been very, very high on Miles Sanders all offseason with his new location here in Carolina. You heard even recently the ability that Frank Reich wants to get him involved in the pass game as well. So, and I think given his history and his ability to do it at that level, I think he should have absolutely not a problem getting involved in pass game. And I love me some pass catching running backs as they break open the scoring format. Absolutely a cheat code for half PPR formats. Right here, let's see who's still on the board. Excuse me. So right now, I'm going to take a strategy. A tight end that I've been super, super high on all offseason is Dallas Goedert. Taking him here in the 5th round might be a little bit of a reach without, as I normally like to punt tight ends. However, if I take Dallas Goedert here in the 5th round with how confident I am as him being the tight end 3 for fantasy football, just the way I project it, it allows me not to have to worry about tight end for the rest of the draft and focus on other skill positions. So there's a lot of running backs I like here. I like James Conner. I like Cam Akers as well. Cam Akers went off the board, but I like James Conner as well. I think he might fall to me. I also do like Mike Williams, Marquise Brown, Brandon Ayuk, some of these wide receivers down here. So I think if I take Dallas Goedert, we also have to look and play the game and seeing that Team 11 nor Team 12 have taken a tight end. So it might behoove us a little bit to take the tight end here and get the guy that we really, really want at the tight end position. So I'm going to take Dallas Goedert, be very, very happy with that. Fingers crossed James Conner falls to us, and he does. I am ecstatic. That is an auto draft. A guy that's going to be the focal point of the offense down there in Arizona. It might be a rebuilding team. It might be a terrible team. But even after Kyler Murray went down with the ACL injury last year, he was a top 3 running back throughout the last 7 games. It was absolutely astounding what James Conner put up as far as production-wise went. So now we're moving on, and right here we can see that maybe we take a quarterback. I know this is like a really prime time for a lot of people to get a secondary quarterback, or really the tier in quarterback drops off quite a bit, but we can see that Team 11 and 12, they already have the quarterbacks, so we can probably reach a little bit on a guy that we like here. And I'm going to go another guy I've been talking about all offseason who I think is an absolute steal coming in is going to be Jamal Williams for New Orleans. I've gone pretty running back heavy outside of my top wide receivers, but I think that there's a couple wide receivers I like later on in the draft that I'm going to try to suck up some value with, and I really like what I've done right here. And I think with Jamal Williams, it's going to really finish up a strong start to my flex spot, and then I can take whatever quarterback I want as I come back around. I think I'm going to play it safe here with the quarterback position. We don't have too many options. We could try to take the upside shot on an Anthony Richardson. There's also the upside shot on a Tua, but the health concerns there, they really scare me. It also scared me off taking Jalen Waddle up here at the top of the draft. So there's a lot of things that concern me around Tua. I think Dak Prescott overall is not a terrible quarterback. I think, there are some upside shots on quarterbacks that I'd like to take later on in the draft, and the floor that Dak Prescott provides, especially with all the pass catching weapons around him in the offense, adding Brandon Cooks, adding a Luke Schoonmaker, and also with the ascension of CeeDee Lamb last year, I think Dak Prescott is going to be a fantastic quarterback. And why I say I feel pressure to take Dak Prescott right now is, as you will see, I've done enough mock drafts as I've prepared for this one that you will see all 4 of these quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, Tua Tagovailoa, and Anthony Richardson, will all be taken before they gets back to my pick here at the 9-10. Just you watch. This is why you mock draft, so you know exactly when these quarterbacks are going to be taken. So I'll take Dak Prescott, and we'll watch as these quarterbacks fly off the board. There goes Deshaun. Keep it going. Keep it rolling. There's Tua. Anthony Richardson, didn't even make it through the end of the 8th round. But that's okay, because we got our guy in Dak Prescott, and I'm actually not at all that pressed now. So moving on, if we're looking down the board here, like I said, we're pretty set at running back. I don't think we need to go running back, except if we did take DK Metcalf. He did fall to us here at Jahmyr Gibbs right here in the 9th round. Khalil Herbert, what is he doing here, man? In a rushing-based offense surrounded by Justin Fields, obviously with David Montgomery no longer there. Roschon Johnson is going to be on the board a little bit later as well. So getting both Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert this late in the draft, I mean, this is why I'm so comfortable punting the running back position at the top of the draft and going for some of those high-end wide receivers. There's not too much when it comes to the wide receivers. It's picked a little thin at this point. Not really too many guys I'm super, super high on here. I think if you want to take a shot, there's really 2 ways you can approach this. A guy that I really like to target here in the 9th round is Zay Flowers, who I think is going to really emerge as the alpha wide receiver. The more I read into it, the more I'm concerned about Rashad Bateman's injury, the more I look at Odell Beckham Jr.'s health, the more I think Zay Flowers is going to be very, very involved in this offense. And if he was falling to me at this pick, I would absolutely snatch up Zay Flowers. I think he is the rookie. At his current ADP, he's the most palpable rookie that I'm willing to take right now. Unfortunately, I did not get Zay Flowers. So I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman. The health concerns me. Khalil Herbert, I have so many running backs. It's not going to behoove me to take a running back here. So I think I'll just take Cortland Sutton. I don't think Jerry Jeudy has, accentuated himself or removed himself from that offense as much as people think they have. And I think Cortland Sutton is still a top tier wide receiver that should be able to put up decent production. Now we're moving on, and, we have to be mindful of how many rounds we have left. And we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks left. So we're going to keep that in mind as we move on. Right here, just because we did have that, we did go for a safer pick in Dak Prescott, and we do have quite a solid skill position player set here. And I have some other wide receivers I want to take later on. Not super high on. I could take Khalil Herbert here. Excuse me. Khalil Herbert, actually, you know what? If we're going to go based on talent, I think he's the most talented player left on the board. Why not take Khalil Herbert here? So moving right along, and it's going to lead us right into our next pick is going to be a quarterback. We went safe with Dak, but it's going to allow us to take some upside shots here. And I've seen Kyler Murray both undersized guys. Kyler Murray, he looks really good. He's back on the field. He's training. He could be back on the field this season. And when he is, he's an absolute cheat code as a quarterback. His rushing ability is tremendous. And here, if you look at all the skill position players left on the board, I don't think it's not worth taking the shot on a Kyler Murray here. So I'm going to go and take Kyler Murray, be quite happy about that. Right here, we look at all of the players left on the board. Could go with Roshan Johnson, obviously secure our Khalil Herbert investment that we made 2 rounds ago. There's a lot of different ways I could go with this. I'll probably just stick with a wide receiver that, I could wait and I could wait on him, but I don't want to take that risk. A guy that I think is just going to be, as solid it comes. An absolute PPR machine. If you're playing PPR, Hunter Renfrow will probably go higher, but I think people are sleeping on him based on his injury. Jacoby Myers comes in. I don't think he's that much of a threat to his target share. I think he's going to absolutely feast in the short to intermediate routes that Jimmy Garoppolo is so astute at throwing. And also kind of reassures my Devontae Adams pick right up here. If Devontae Adams happens to get hurt, well, Hunter Renfrow can step up right there, and I don't think it's a terrible thing to pick in the 12th round. Now, this is a league that has kickers and defenses, and we have 3 rounds left. The value you're going to get from taking a Justin Tucker and Evan McPherson here instead of in 4 picks is going to be better than any sort of skill position player you're getting. So, I know people say, don't worry about the kickers, don't worry about the defense until the absolute last round of the draft. I am giving you permission to go ahead, draft these guys. Don't draft them in the 9th round. Don't draft them in the 10th round. Don't go crazy, but draft them 1 round early, because the value you get in Justin Tucker compared to a Tyler Bass is going to be much greater than any other running back or wide receiver you're picking up at this position. So I'm taking Justin Tucker. I guarantee myself the best kicker in the game. Defenses, 49ers, Eagles. It really, really pains me to do this, but I'm a huge Micah Parsons fan. Despite being an Eagles fan, I have to give my props to Micah Parsons. I think Dan Quinn is an incredible defensive coordinator, and I'm just going to pick the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think that's going to be anything too stressful. And then, we have 4 wide receivers. We have more than 4 running backs. We have 5 running backs. They're all filled up into our flex slots right here. With the fact that we're going to see Kyler Murray on the IR for quite a long time, I don't think it's absolutely outrageous to take another quarterback here. You can go with a guy like a Matthew Stafford, who you're expecting a bounce back year, just in case something happens with Dak. He's a little bit injury prone, and just making sure that you are completely set at the quarterback position in the last round of your draft is not the worst idea in the world. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Matthew Stafford to finish off the draft. So I hope you guys enjoyed. That is the first mock draft of the 2023 NFL fantasy football season. Obviously, these ADPs will change. We have 2 months. We have preseason. We have the preseason games. We're going to have injuries. We're going to have hype. We're going to have breakouts in the preseason. So I guarantee you that if this team stays this exact same in 2 months, something's wrong, because ADPs are going to fly all over the place. People are going to skyrocket up draft boards. People are going to fall. That's just the nature of the game. But, never too early to start mock drafting, start getting your mind around these players and figuring out, who I'm going to target. And like I said, I'm always DK in the third. I'm really hoping that, but I have my backup plan, Jahmyr Gibbs. Miles Sanders, a little bit of a reach for him here in the 4th round, but, I'm really comfortable with him. Even if he was my RB1, I'm very comfortable with that position. So it's nice that I can kind of go into drafts, and even this early on in July, thinking, okay, Miles Sanders 4th round. I'm very comfortable with that. And it really eases the burden on a lot of the way that I set up my drafts, the way that I can, stay resolute in taking wide receiver in round 1 and round 2, even if Bijan Robinson falls to me. So again, hope you enjoyed this mock draft. I encourage you to do as many mock drafts to prepare yourself as well. We'll go through some mock drafting tips here in the future as your league drafts come up. But until then, as always, take care, guys.